You're dreaming about having it in council chambers like at June or something like that.
Yeah.
In June of 2021.
Wait, actually, that begs the question: Has Charlie ever had a meeting in the chambers yet? Holy smokes! Okay.
Whenever you are.
Yeah, we can go. We got everyone.
Whenever you're ready, Luke.
Oh, okay.
Anytime.
I called the order meeting of the Verona Common Council for Monday, December 14th, 2020 at 7:02 p.m. We will begin with the roll.
Alderperson Journey.
Here.
Alderperson Cole.
Here.
Alderperson Touche.
Present.
Alderperson Cronin.
Present.
Alderperson Ryan.
Here.
Alderperson Posey.
Here.
Alderperson Reiki.
Here.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
All right, that was the roll. Next, we'll move on to item 3, public comments. Mr. Sayre, do we have any registered speakers?
We do. First up, I have Jennifer John Cox.
Hello, my name is Jennifer John Cox. I moved here in 2009, and I just want to go on record that I've been very disappointed with the city's miscommunication of the sewer project. Miscommunication and lack of communication are my two biggest concerns. So just like I said, I wanted to go on record that I think that the project has been mishandled, and I want to go on record that I have a big ask that they put the project on pause to further investigate the possible mistakes that have been done, and to answer to the citizens why near 100-year-old oak trees were cleared. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Sayre, next speaker.
Next up is Amy Fowler.
I can try to unmute Amy.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. Nope.
She was there. Here we go. You're muted. You gotta mute yourself.
There we go. Now, okay, that wasn't coming up, so sorry about that. I want to be brief, as Jen was. I wanted to go on record as saying I was very concerned about this project and the lack of transparency and not getting information in a timely fashion. So those of us especially that live here in the neighborhood backing right onto that would be aware of it. I feel that some of the pieces that we were told would happen didn't happen or didn't happen as we expected. The cuts seemed to be deeper than what we expected. We also ended up with no erosion control until today. Later this afternoon, they did put in silt fencing, so now that seems to have been corrected for us. I feel like there have been plans, long-term plans made by the city that demonstrated a desire to protect this corridor because of its soil, because of the creek, because of the 12% grade or better of the slopes, and the wooded environment. And yet, every one of those would say to me that there should have been a greater consideration for whether or not the sewer line should be expanded and put through this particular corridor, and yet it went through. So I have concerns about that. I also have concerns about what will happen with Ice Age Trail, whether or not it will be paved and made accessible for bikes. I don't approve of that. I feel that the Ice Age Trail needs to remain as a nature trail. And I guess I would also like to see a schematic of where the trees are going to be planted in a reclamation on the backside of this. I haven't been able to find anything that indicates what the plan is in order to help recover this corridor on the backside of laying the sewer pipe. With those points in mind, I'll let you go on to someone else.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Sayer.
All right, next I have Raleigh.
Oh, there we go. You appear to, oh, there we go.
Sorry, that took a while. I'm labeled as electrical dimensions, sorry about that, but my name is Raleigh Twite. Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just piggyback on some of the concerns that Amy brought up, primarily about the silt fence. So I became aware of the project from my neighbor, even though I'm pretty close to the project. If you all don't know where I live on 500 South Main, which is the old Matt's Farm, which is the property that goes almost all the way back to the park and to the pumping station. But I was kind of taken by surprise on everything that was clear cut around me. Just to give you a little background, this intersection's been under construction for probably over 3 years now with the bike trail and sidewalk improvements. There were some issues that came up during that process with what I just noticed when the bridge got extended with flood water, and a generator actually got washed downstream. Gas cans got washed downstream during that project. The silt fence got taken out by the water and actually never did get cleaned up until they cut down the trees. It was still woven in the trees. But my biggest concerns are getting past this and looking for restoration of some of the properties. So I had the luxury of being able to witness a lot of wildlife from my house, which was one of the reasons that gravitated me toward this area to begin with. But we frequently had bald eagle that was in this neighborhood, and that was kind of their perches, were those trees to do their fishing, because I guess bald eagles like fish a lot. So I don't see that coming back for a long time. I had concerns about loss of view during the previous project, or I should say gaining more views. So if you look anywhere from my house, you can now see the whole backside of Carnes and all their wall packs, which isn't, I guess it's like living next to a dump site almost. And those were concerns I had in the original project that I discussed to see if somehow we could, get some plantings up on that upper side once that bike path went in. And that never happened. And I have been working with Theron to try to correct some issues that still are pending from those previous projects, which I guess will happen with this one. But I guess I'd like to see where we could get trees in and possible, because Theron's response was that we're not planting any trees because the sewers don't like trees. We do have some information from some other communities, and the mayor has already seen that information. I don't know if anybody else has, about the new sewer pipes, and there's really not a big problem with sewer pipes any longer. That was using the clay pipes back in the 50s, 60s, or whenever they went to PVC is no longer a problem. Just to make everyone aware, and I don't want to drag this on because I know you guys are all busy and there's more people. Sorry, that was my dad. I'd just like to see everything taken up. There are still areas on my property that don't have silt fence up. And there's a large drainage problem on the rear of the property here kind of the northern section, or the southern section drains down into the creek. The other day when it rained, I went back and took a look at that and shot some video of it, but all the water is going over all the excavated area and dumping right into the creek. So I don't think that's really good. They did put a drain pipe under there, but most of the water was going over it and not through the drain. But in my thought process, that should probably be silted off, or at least screened to remove most of the residue that's coming off of that work site and going directly into the stream. I really wanted them to use the old route on the north side, at least on this portion of it, because on the previous project with the Fireman's Park, that whole north side of the creek had already been clear cut. And it didn't make sense to me to clear cut this side of the creek as well. And through engineering, I don't know if there are any issues, because I couldn't really get any issues at the point that I contacted back in July to the DNR. So that's all I've got to say. I thank you very much. And on to the next, I guess.
Thank you. Mr. Sayer, next speaker.
All right, next up, I have Sam. Can't hear you, Sam.
There we go.
Gotcha.
Okay, excellent. So my name is Sam Sibley. I moved to Verona with my family in summer of 2019, so we're new residents. We live at 504 Melody Lane on the north side of Badger Mill Creek. So I have a PhD in environmental chemistry and a minor in hydrogeology from UW-Madison. And with that background, you won't be surprised that my main concern is water quality. You know that there's a large reclaimed water contribution to Badger Mill Creek in this stretch, and that makes it that much more important to keep this portion of the creek shaded so that the water temperatures stay low. So cutting the trees on the south side of the creek makes an especially large impact on keeping the sun off it. When I spoke with Theron when I noticed the clear cut happening, and he may have just been glossing over the amount of rehabilitation that's planned, but it really seemed like it was an afterthought. His comment to me was that it wouldn't be fair for other residents of Verona to have to pay for planting trees in the area. My thought is, with all the work that Dane County is putting in to rehabilitating the channelized section behind Veterans Park, that it would really be a shame, and more than that, it would be irresponsible for the city of Verona to not put equal importance, or not lend equal importance to this portion of the creek that's now since been clear cut. With that said, I had a couple of requests and a couple of questions that I'll just rattle off quickly. Requests are that we have more transparency in this process moving forward, and transparency in a way that an average citizen can digest, because not everybody has a background in reviewing engineering plans. I'd like to see better communication, including information about the paths, and if there are going to be additional public meetings, that information be more widely distributed. For example, I kept a tab open in my browser when we got a letter sent to our house that there would be a public meeting coming up, and I maybe missed checking it for a few days or a week, and the meeting happened and passed before I had a chance to even sign on to it. I'm interested in understanding the amount of community input that's possible and oversight that's possible. And like one of the previous speakers, I really want to see a dedication toward rehabilitation of the riparian zone moving forward. Any environmental scientist will tell you that riparian zone areas are critical for preserving water quality. The questions that I have are, was there an external review panel that contributed to the project plan? If so, did they create a report that could be shared? If there wasn't any kind of external review, why not? I assume Dane County or the DNR would have been happy to review. I'm also concerned that mistakes were made in the breadth of the clear cut. We were given some of the engineering plans, which I was able to take a look at, and the dotted line that indicates the limit of construction clearly is outside of the riparian zone, especially in the area that's on Melody Circle, whereas that whole area was clear cut right up to the bank. And then also in that, this is my last point, in that engineering diagram, there were several large trees, and those were indicated as greater than 40-inch diameter, marked on the engineering drawings. And I'm curious if those were marked for preservation because they weren't preserved, they were raised, or if those were marked because additional equipment was needed to take those trees down. So that's my comment. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Sayer, next speaker.
Okay, next up I have Kyla.
Hello. You have Kyla, and you also have a young environmentalist, nature lover, and activist in the making. This is Bailey, my eldest daughter. So good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you so much for allowing us time to speak this evening, and hopefully you received and were able to view a series of images that were forwarded from Adam earlier today so that you can have a picture in your mind of the land being discussed tonight as it was and as it is now. 22 years ago, my parents purchased 104 Melody Circle for our family of 6, me and my 3 younger sisters. And the main reason they bought the home was the expansive backyard, the flowing stream, and the beautiful untouched grove of trees that was just beyond. This April, my husband and our 4 children and I, we purchased the home from my parents. And the main reason we bought the home was the expansive backyard, the flowing stream, and the beautiful untouched grove of trees just beyond. So I'm sure you can imagine our dismay when we woke up on November 16th to trucks and saws and falling trees. By the end of the day, that beautiful untouched grove of trees was gone. I would like to acknowledge that I understand with any growth come growing pains, and I recognize that Verona is growing and that its infrastructure needs are changing. So I don't fault the city or its leaders for coming up with a plan to improve the sewer system. I do, however, have issue with the overall lack of communication, omission of details, and what looks to be mistakes that have happened as a result of this project. As my fellow neighbors have and will express, it seems evident that mistakes have been made so far. Many massive and environmentally significant trees seem to have been cut unnecessarily. Markers were misplaced, silt fences were missing or not placed in a timely manner. Even a misplaced trail closed sign sat incorrectly in our circle for weeks before its eventual removal happened today. There was a temporary bridge made to cross the creek behind our home using logs and mulch and other debris. This debris didn't seem to be fully cleared after it was done being used, and based on just some brief research, this seems to be really detrimental to the creek and its shoreline and the water quality. My list of concerns grows when I think about the shared stretch of property between our home and the John Cox home, so you heard from Jen earlier, which is residence 104 and 102 Melody Circle that is involved in the plans. Theron came out to talk to us. He came to our property to speak to us about the project. He made no mention of any tree clearing beyond the creek and assured us that the trees standing currently in our backyard in the space below the manhole cover would be just fine. However, after seeing the complete devastation of the forestry in the stretch between M and the Lincoln Street Bridge, I'm not hopeful for the trees in our own yard, and I wonder what will be done to restore them if they're lost. During that visit, Theron told us he wasn't exactly sure where they would need to be doing work. It was possible it might disrupt our fire pit space, but probably not. He also told us not to worry about attending the public hearing because they were still entertaining bids and they wouldn't be able to give us many more details than he had already provided us. When giving us a project timeline, he said to expect work around late summer, maybe in August. We took this to mean all of the work on the project, so again, we were quite taken aback when the unmentioned construction began behind our home in November. At the time of our conversation with Theron on our property, I assumed that he was on staff with the city, perhaps maybe a member of the construction team. I was shocked to find out that this individual who seemed to know so little about the project was in fact its director. Unfortunately, the unnecessary destruction of these trees cannot be undone. However, with your help, there are things that can be done, and what I'm asking for is the following: an in-depth investigation into the alleged mistakes thus far in the project and an answer to how mistakes will be reduced moving forward, increased oversight and accountability on the project moving forward, more and continued transparency and communication about the current plan, provided, like Sam said, in a way that the average citizen or maybe even my daughter might be able to understand. Specific information about the proposed gravel path and paved path that are both detailed in the construction plans that might run along the creek, and the ability to add comment and or opposition to the construction of those paths. Rehabilitation to any trees that may be damaged on our property line, and as others have mentioned, this I think is one of the most important pieces, purposeful dedication to rehabilitation of the oak savanna and the space along the creek to stabilize the bank, shade the water, and restore what has been lost. It's really my sincerest hope that when all this is said and done, I can still share the favorite parts of my home, the expansive backyard, the flowing stream, and the beautiful untouched grove of trees just beyond. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Sayer, next speaker.
Next up, I have Joe and Jocelyn.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn, and this is my husband, Joe. We live in Verona at 562 South Hillcroft, and this is our third home or apartment in Verona. We moved here in 2005, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I feel like mine and my neighbors' concerns have not been addressed by trying to work with the Department of Public Works, and so we really value this opportunity to have our voices heard by you tonight. In the Ice Age Trail, I feel like Verona is so lucky to have a National Scenic Trail right here in the heart of our city. In the past 9 months, the public land across our country has been really valued as people are staying closer to home. And that's true right here in Verona. We can see the Ice Age Trail from inside our house, and we've seen so many people, individuals and families enjoying this resource. And that makes it even more painful to see the destruction that's happened. This corridor, the trail that people have been sharing about tonight, runs right along the moraine and also includes a spring-fed trout stream. The city of Verona itself has recognized the value of this specific corridor along Badger Mill Creek in the city's comprehensive plan. Based on all of this, it's just shocking to me that this forested area was cleared so carelessly and to such a drastic extent. Cutting the trees threatens the stability of the moraine, and it compromises the ability of the creek to support trout. I have lots of concerns about the project. One of the biggest is transparency. The city did not share information about this project with the community in a timely manner. The first we heard of the sewer project was when in early September we saw signs posted by the Ice Age Trail volunteers to notify people of the upcoming closure. The public meeting to inform the community of this project was not scheduled until October 29th. This was only days before the work was scheduled to begin. Clearly that's not enough time for the community to give input and feedback on this plan. And I think we're all suffering from that lack of transparency because some issues could have been avoided if there would have been a chance for our community to voice their concerns before something as irreparable as clearing really, really old, beautiful trees happened. And also, in addition to no information, there's also been misleading or incorrect information shared. Signs were posted that a 60-foot swath would be cleared along the creek as part of this project. And we have measured, and there are large cleared sections that are 100 and even up to 175 feet from the creek. It's just, it was devastating enough to think about the 60 foot, but to have it be 2 and 3 times as wide as was shared in advance is really concerning. We've seen the message that this area will be restored. And we have found plans for restoration on the county-owned land, which is north of the Lincoln Street Bridge. However, we haven't seen detailed plans for restoration or reclamation south of the bridge. The Public Works Director has told members of our group that trees will not be planted in this section. And he also said it wouldn't be fair to spend taxpayer money on this. And on the contrary, I'm fundamentally opposed to spending city money to indiscriminately clear a forested area. And I think our community, a tree city, does support planting trees. We've been told this area had to be cleared for our city's sewers. And I think it's more accurate to say that this was a relatively easy way to expand the city's sewers. The project could have been designed to minimize the environmental impact and also included more careful oversight. Our community values natural land for recreation and animal habitats. And as a community, we just were not given an opportunity to provide feedback. I'm concerned about the destruction of the trees and wetlands. I'm concerned about the lack of transparency in the planning and design of this project. I'm concerned about city employees misleading our community as trees have been continued to be cut in the last several weeks and as trenches are starting to be dug through this fragile natural area. I would ask you as council members, if you haven't already, to walk down and see the damage that has been done so you have a better understanding of what's happening in our community. And as you're there, visualize the 20-foot trenches that are going to be dug right along the creek here. I echo the requests of other of my neighbors that this project be paused until there's a more clear plan to protect this precious area and until there's better oversight so that issues that have come up already in the first few weeks of this project don't continue in the next year work is planned to be done. And I thank you for hearing those concerns.
And I'd like to continue on. I'm Joe, and I'm also concerned about the miscommunication. I'm concerned about the erosion impacting the moraines that were formed by glaciers. Such a unique, amazing thing in our community, right in our backyards here. And also, they're the moraines that my house is standing upon, so I'm worried about any erosion there potentially impacting the integrity of my house. And I'm also concerned about the cold water fishery portions of the Badger Mill Creek that are right here in Corona. And those cold water fisheries require shade, spraying, wetlands, and clean water. So about the miscommunication, Jocelyn mentioned the signs posted on the Ice Age Trail that stated that clearing would be 60 feet. And we were also told that the clearing would be what was cleared about 35 years ago. And that was the planned area for clearing. But we went out and we measured the width of the clearing, and it was 100 up to 175 feet. There was a massive tree. I'm guessing it was at least 45 inches in diameter. That was 175 feet away from the project area that was cleared. It was not even going to be near the pipe at all. And I feel that is a huge loss. And numerous old trees, Sam mentioned, they looked at the plan. I looked at the plan. There's half a dozen trees with 40 plus, 50 plus inch diameters marked on the plan. And these were cleared. And obviously those trees that are 40, 50 inches in diameter were standing 35 years ago. Just for frame of reference, we had a bur oak tree removed from our backyard that's 20 inches in diameter and at least 50 years old. So these trees that were removed were twice as large diameter, so much larger than our tree that was at least 50 years old. And also read up on the City of Verona Comprehensive Plan and the Outdoor and Recreation Plan, which calls for the protection of the Badger Mill Creek, has celebrated the work that's already been done to preserve and improve the Badger Mill Creek. And I'm afraid that this project has set that back. The sewer plan on page 69 calls out the slopes in my backyard that are to not be disturbed as part of this plan. And on the first day of clearing in our in our yard, we went out there and looked at the lines and looked at the equipment and saw that the hill behind our back house was going to be cleared. We called up the project director. He seemed to be upset that we were calling him at 4:15 p.m. And we explained to him that we didn't feel that was safe for our property to have these trees removed on the hill behind our house. The next day, Marty, the civil engineer for the city, came out and took a look at it, and he agreed that it wouldn't be wise to remove them, and that the plan was not to clear the trees on the moraine, and that when talking to the men doing the clearing, they were under the understanding that they were to remove those trees. So if it wasn't for our work at that point in time, in a critical moment, we would have lost these trees on the moraine, causing the moraine to erode. And on page 13 of the Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan, it notes that the Badger Mill Creek is designated as a cold water fishery from its confluence with the Sugar River upstream to the Lincoln Street Bridge. And my understanding of the sewer plan is that this will change the nature of this area from a wooded area to grasses. And that will make the creek and the spring here warm. It will potentially cause the city to have to deal with algae blooms, and it'll cause the spring to warm up and be detrimental to the fishery that the county is working so hard to preserve just north of here. So I'd ask the council to pause the project until limits can be imposed that will protect the slopes of the moraines, the spring, and Badger Mill Creek as much as possible, and that the restoration plan from the Lincoln Street Bridge downstream from there be changed to be a forest restoration instead of a prairie restoration, so that we can have those valuable trees back to protect the moraines and protect the stream and protect the spring, and that new project oversight is in place to ensure that the project is brought back in line with Verona's existing comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sayer, next speaker.
Okay, next up I have Dawn.
Hi there. Thanks so much for meeting with us, and thank you for your time that you put in. I know that government requires participation of the residents and also fabulous people who give your time, as you are. I live next door to Joe and Jocelyn. I live on the terminal moraine and a steep hill, and at the bottom of this hill we have rock outcroppings. These are called drumlins, and they help support the hill, which is very important because, as is listed in the Verona Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted in September of 2009, it says that these hills are very fragile and should not be disturbed. Any slope that's 12% more grade. This plan also says that the oak forest is original and is an old-growth oak forest and the only one left in the city of Verona. And so that's why we have 100-year-old trees. And I echo my neighbors in saying, please come down, take a look at some of the piles of trunks that are at the edge of Highway M. I did that with a DNR representative named Daniel on Friday morning at 9 a.m. We walked from the Lincoln Street Bridge all the way up to Highway M. And he's the one who then reported that when he saw the spring and how it was going into the creek and how it was blocked by debris and that there weren't any silt fences. He's the one who notified Theron that this needs to be taken care of and that it is in violation of their permit. And so that's why the silt fences were installed. So once again, the oversight is coming from the residents rather than from the department itself. This is very problematic. And so I also echo more oversight, more transparency would be good. We also, as my neighbors mentioned, there were stakes that were right up by our homes that would have clear cut all the oaks on our properties on these very fragile hills, which is in violation of the comprehensive plan. It's in violation of what the county would want. It's the erosion and the possibility of our homes collapsing after those trees were removed. But luckily, we spotted them in time as the machines were just at the base of the hill ready to rip them out. We stopped it from happening. This is very nerve-wracking, and it doesn't really give you a lot of trust in the people who are in charge here. And so at that time, Marty, who was the civil engineer for the city, just a fabulous person, was very informative and said that we could keep the rock outcroppings, which helped stabilize the hill of the drumlin that's at the bottom of the hill. And about a week after that, Jocelyn and I were walking and ran into a surveyor from the company JSD who did the surveying for the project. And he was marking out 40 feet from the creek, which in our section is very, very narrow. We're pretty close to the creek. We're not in the section where they cleared 180 feet away from the creek. We're in the section that's much closer to the Lincoln Street Bridge. And the surveyor he showed us exactly where 40 feet was, and that's where one of the sewer pipes will go in and be dug a 20-foot trench, which Marty told me is so deep that they'll have to pump the water out from the trench. And so the surveyor said that they will have to blast through that rock outcropping that Marty said that we could keep, and that they will go through the hill. And so that's very, very concerning. And so I have been in communication with people from Dane County and from the DNR, and right away in September when we heard that we're going to clear 60 feet of trees, I called Sarah Riegelman, who's in charge of the Dane County part of the plan, and he said that they told Theron that he does not need to clear 40 feet, that 40 feet is excessive. And so you can imagine now that we've seen 3, 4, more than 4 times that cleared, we wonder what the heck is going on, and further talk to other people from Dane County who have engineering degrees and all kinds of other things. And I'm happy to provide resources and chat with you folks more about what I've learned. I've learned so much about all of these things in the past few weeks, and I'm so happy to share that information. So what I learned was that this was an old growth oak forest. These trees were over 100 years old, and you can't ever in our lifetime or our children's lifetime replace these trees that it appears have been removed by mistake, or if they weren't removed by mistake, at the very least without knowledge of best practices of sewers these days. So the people that I talked to at Dane County said that trees are very compatible with sewer lines. And so, and the same when you hear it from the DNR. I also talked to people at the Geological Research and Survey Center who also echoed that the shade is essential for the springs. And even, I think the plan for this is to plug the springs and cover them up and not take care of them, which is, that is their right to do, because the DNR, pretty much all they can do is stop if there's endangered species, which we don't have any like special bumblebees or anything in this section. We just have the usual, foxes, coyotes, tree frogs, eagles that we get to listen to or, watch, or we used to. So the spring will probably be covered up, but it will come back. Some of it there will always be water there. And so this plan to put in grass seed that we've heard from the Director of Public Works, all the experts I've talked to from the state and the county say that's ridiculous. It's just going to turn into weeds and invasives, and it's going to be a muddy, silty, going into the stream, and it's going to be a mess. And you're going to the stream itself will be filled with invasives because of the sunlight. So we really appreciate you looking into this and researching, and and I hope you get a chance to talk to some of these folks too. And the blasting, I don't think in previous meetings with neighbors, a lot of people have expressed, people have gotten blast notices. We don't know what that means. We don't know where they're going to be blasting. No one has given us any details. When I talked to Theron on November 17th, when he said, well, we can't provide all the engineering details, and he was just very defensive about it. And when we called him on Monday the 16th, Joe and Jocelyn called him at 4:15. He said, I get done with work at 3:30. You better be only calling me if there's sewage spilling everywhere. And it's just like, are you kidding? Like, things like that are just, there's been a lot of secrecy, there's been a lot of belligerence, there's been a lot of incompetence, there's been a lot of mistakes that have been made. Fortunately, you're the one, you're the only ones who have any power of this. Dane County and the state do not have jurisdiction in the city of Verona. There is nothing else but you stopping all of this, and for the future too. All other projects, and this doesn't seem to be done with any kind of environmental oversight or best practices of the day. And so, or any, I'm pretty much, and my neighbors are the oversight. We're the ones who noticed that there weren't any silt fences, learned about what silt fences were. I didn't even know before this. So, so we would like the project paused until we can at least find out what's going on with this, with the rock outcropping. Maybe have a walkthrough. We should have had a walkthrough to start with. Why wasn't there a walkthrough to show where the lines and where the sewer lines are, which trees were going to be cleared, all of that. So, just in interest of good government, to have some kind of oversight, it would be good. So, thanks very much for listening. And I'm also going to let you know that my spouse, Jackie Regenbogen, is the next speaker. Unfortunately, she's exhausted. She went through cancer treatment during all of 2018, and then her mom was very sick, and we took care of her during all of 2019. And then at the end of 2019, exactly 1 year ago, we moved to this property, kind of a refuge, and just to be able to listen to the tree frogs and listen to the coyotes and watch all the different kinds of birds. We have a lot of warblers and eagles that you just don't see other places because of the old growth forest. And our entire house, all the windows are facing toward this view that now looks, as one of the Dane County engineers that I talked to said, looks like a war zone. So Jackie is exhausted and can't actually speak tonight, but she cares obviously very, very much for this land and for our democracy, really. And so I thank you for being our democracy and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mr. Slater, next speaker.
Up I have Elizabeth.
Hello. My name is Lisbeth, and I live in 114 Melody Circle. Just wanted to be here because I want to echo all the concerns that have been listed by all our neighbors. Just want to tell you the story. Moved here to Wisconsin 23 years ago. Since then, been coming to Verona for hiking and a lot of being connected with nature. What we love about Verona is the fact that we have both the rural and the city combined in one place, and that was very appealing to us. And so we were living in Madison. We were coming to Verona for hikings and enjoying nature. Then we would move to New Glarus, and we were living in the country in New Glarus, and we still were coming to Verona, and we were coming to the trail, exactly the trail that is we're talking about tonight. And we still came like very frequently with our children. We were not part of the neighborhood, but we came over here. We enjoyed the nature. We enjoyed the city. Was one of the things. We finally moved to where we are right now 4 years ago, and it was very touching to us to find out that our house was right by the trail that we used to come all the time. We didn't even know that when we purchased the house. Then we find out that, and it was like, you know, more happiness for us to enjoy what we've been enjoying for years when we were coming to Verona. Just want to echo the same concerns that my neighbors are having. You know, I want to advocate for the stopping of this project because there has been so many mistakes that have been made, and mistakes that if we continue to make, we're not going to have any coming back. And it's really sad, as a person who's been enjoying the nature of what Verona is and what Verona has to offer to citizens and the residents, it's really sad to see that these all had gone in just a few days. We've been enjoying this for years, and all of a sudden it's gone. So I don't want to leave with the thought that we could prevent something that is bigger down the road, and it will cause our city to make a lot more changes to it. One of the things that during the pandemic, that we entered the pandemic, was that trail, that specific corridor, was very touching to me because that was what maintained me to have the sanity in my mentality to keep going through pandemics, and I'm sure it was for so many residents in here. The fact that not a lot of people knew of what the project was and the transparency of what was happening is very troubling. And so that reason why I advocate for the stopping of this project, and until more input has been done, more research has been done, and maybe some other corrections that can be prevented from now on can be done. When I was going into the pandemics, there was some, I don't know who, put a color, you know, like they placed some drugs with colors in through the trail, and I took a lot of pictures of them because this is the part that I love about it. Some of the rocks call for breathe, believe, be kind, smile, enjoy nature, and that's all what it is all in there, or it was, because we don't have that anymore. So I just want to close this in saying that I want to believe that we have a council who advocate for the well-being of the community. I want to believe that we are all kind to each other, and we are protecting those important resources that our community has to offer to all of us. And thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to my voice, and I'm hoping that we can do something better for our community and continue to enjoy what Verona is all about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sayer, is there, I think there's at least one more speaker.
Got one more. Last speaker is Steve.
Hi there. Hi, I'm Steve Medalinsky. I live on Harvest Lane. Not one of the neighbors directly impacted, and you know, on the trail, very clear and concerns that all have at the work that's been done and the work that continues to do, and keeping their property in that area around there safe. And I stand with those neighbors with their concerns. I'd like to put my voice to the restoration. It's absolutely, you know, devastating what has happened and transpired with the clear cutting, well beyond what the plans seem to have in place. I really would like to see a lot more effort be put into what is going to happen next, and how do we restore and reclaim the areas that everyone spoke so eloquently about earlier in front of me. I'd also like to ask about the access. You know, from a real practical standpoint, you know, this project is shutting down the bridges, so any kind of foot or bike traffic from the southeast side of the city to, you know, the main part of the downtown area. My wife and I frequent, you know, weekly from our neighborhood by foot over to businesses, Salzier, Miller's, Tuvalu, Toot and Kate's, the new Icky Sticky that is trying to make a go of it there. We put our money in locally, and not to say that we can't get in a car and drive around, but that was part of what we loved about this area, is the accessibility, and Liz spoke so eloquently about the nature and neighborhood, you know, combining. I've got a son, you know, just another kind of story about, you know, pandemic and really specific to the time right now, is that there are people like myself and people in our family that have taken a lot of refuge in that walking area and trying to clear our heads and deal with, you know, a lot of, I'm sure others, you know, mental health issues that are at a challenging time right now. And a family member is just absolutely devastated by this, who spent a lot of time at that Lincoln Street Bridge, you know, just trying to figure things out. And so I would ask about, you know, access over those bridges, and what is that going to look like, because the signs say till September of 2020. Specifically the Lincoln Street Bridge, you know, the grass is already well matted down, where, you know, people, I'll say myself included, have walked around those signs and have you know, gone down, you know, over to the Lincoln Street Bridge. And so what is the plan for foot traffic and bike traffic? And as we hopefully crawl out of this quarantine at home, you know, kids are going to want to get over to Connor Field and the ballparks over there. And what is that going to look like? And are we really going to ask them to drive around onto M, ride their bikes over to practice? Because we all want to have our families kind of get back to some normalcy, and that's going to be a great joy, I think, for people as we come out of these cold weather months. And how do we get back any kind of normalcy, as hopefully the you know, vaccines are made available. So what kind of access are we going to have to those bridges, and can we have something available and do it safely for children and adults to use? And then I would also like to, I think it might have been Amy Fowler, but mentioned I would love to see the Ice Age Trail remain a nature trail and not be paved. And there was, not mentioned by others, but talk of a utility road being built in, and I would I guess, voice my concerns about that as well, but I would love to see it, maintained as a nature trail. And let's talk about restoration, because, this city will rally and we'll figure something out together, and hopefully we can do it together with you folks as well. And I guess I'll give back my time. Thanks so much for listening to all of us.
Thank you. Mr. Sayer, any more speakers?
Nope, that is all.
Just a point of clarification or point of information going forward. I might make a brief comment on our mayor's business since it's on the agenda, but in regards to some of the questions that were raised, for example, the gentleman talking about some of the anti-erosion fencing on its property, some of the people who had questions. I know we're going to talk about this during the engineer's report a little bit, and I imagine some alders might have some questions, with understanding that Ms. Fisher might not have all the answers. And I saw I wasn't the only person taking notes, but Mr. Sayer, if you could talk a little bit how some of these things can be addressed going forward. Not to put you on the spot, but.
No, so, obviously it's not on the agenda tonight, so, as staff, I can provide just a real brief update, but it's not really intended to be a question and answer because it's not listed on the agenda. Obviously, the council can't act tonight because it is not on the agenda. We could place this potentially on a future agenda if the council or the mayor directs me to do so. We are looking at a future public neighborhood meeting, something that we're looking kind of after the first of the year. We're putting together some additional information on kind of a restoration plan and some of the questions that were raised tonight. This was an area that, has been cleared previously. There was a project here in 96, so we can provide some additional information, some historical kind of components to this project as well, too, when we get to that meeting. But, going forward, like I said, we're looking at some type of additional neighborhood meeting, and if there is a desire to have something placed on the agenda, I guess I would, from the elected officials, reach out to Luke and myself, and we can place that potentially on a future agenda. But like I said, tonight, since it's not on the agenda, there's not going to be much back and forth, just because it's not on the agenda. That would not be appropriate.
Gotcha, but it is included in the engineer's report, so people had a few clarifying questions. And I saw you taking notes as well, so this stuff can be looked at tomorrow morning.
Correct. We'll get to it as soon as we can. I don't know if it's going to be dealt with tomorrow morning immediately, but yes, we'll get to it as soon as we can. And the meeting's obviously being recorded as well too, so we have the questions that were asked during the meeting, and I believe Ms. Fisher will have an update just on the progress and the timing of the project in her engineer report.
Great. So hopefully everyone is clear on that. Next, we'll move on to item 4, which is approval of the minutes from the, I should clarify, the engineer's report is item 8, which we'll get to shortly. We're on item 4, though, which is approval of the minutes from the November 23rd, 2020 Common Council meeting. Questions, comments, or motions to approve?
Move approval?
Motion by Alder Rieke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Ryan, I believe. Last chance for corrections to the minutes. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the November 23rd, 2020 Common Council meeting, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Minutes are approved. Next, we'll move on to mayor's business, item 5. I just wanted to say 2 quick things. One, in regard to the public comments, I think that it's clear that we at the city need to do a better job of communicating. When it comes down to it, communication is not just what you say or what you think you're saying, it's what people hear. And, I think, I believe in transparency, and I believe that communication should be accessible. And so that's something I think that we need to work on improving. As Mr. Sayer said, we're planning on public meetings, potentially monthly going forward. But it's something that we want to do a lot better job on. And the second thing I want to say is that, the restoration is a really, really critical part of this, and not, both communicating it and then actually doing it, and making sure it doesn't get forgotten. I'm just speaking for myself here, but my understanding of the council's disposition is that everyone understands how important this is and how important restoration is, and that they're willing, to put the funding there where it deserves to be, and as it should be. But hopefully we'll have a lot more details for the public going forward. And my second thing is a proclamation regarding the 2020 Election Inspector Appreciation. As you all know, we recently had a very eventful election. I'd just like to read something real quick. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic had a profound effect on the 2020 elections, including changes to the rise in absentee voting and keeping some election workers at home, whereas the city clerk staff of 2 and the city finance staff of 2 worked many hours preparing over 6,000 absentee ballots to be mailed out through an unprecedented election season, including innovating their service delivery model through 3 elections to continuously improve access, equity, and safety in our elections, as well as learning how to bandage paper cuts, stuff envelopes, and stamp ballots while maintaining productivity, and whereas city staff still conducted their daily responsibilities to the city and answered relentless questions regarding voting, the location of their ballot, and ensuring drop boxes were emptied multiple times in a day, and whereas election workers, both experienced and novice, played a critical role both on election day and during early voting in helping voters safely and securely access their ballots with face masks, hand sanitizer, sanitized pens, and plexiglass shields in polling places. And whereas, thanks to the heroic efforts to get absentee ballots out to voters, there was a record number of absentee ballots returned to the city clerk's office through the mail and in the city's drop box. And whereas the Edgewood College baseball team voluntarily helped staff the polling place parking lots and kept things clean and safe for our voters, and whereas the National Guard filled vacant positions for the first election this year and ensured all voters had clean and safe places to vote, and whereas the U.S. Postal Service worked with city staff to ensure all ballots were distributed and returned to the city even after the post office closed, and whereas numerous other people in Verona who volunteered to help in preparation for the election, the day of the election, after the election, and the many, many long hours of dedicated service to ensure everyone could vote safely, and whereas in order to recognize the heroic efforts made by the election administrators and poll workers, the City of Verona urges voters, businesses, organizations, public officials, and all candidates for public office across our state to join in celebrating and thanking these individuals. And now, therefore, I, Luke Diaz, Mayor of the City of Verona, do hereby thank all who played a part in the elections and appreciate all the hard work that goes into the election process to proclaim December 14th, 2020 as Election Worker Appreciation Day and commend its observance to all residents. And I would also just like to add, voting is a fundamental American right, and to ensure it involves the work of a lot of people, and city staff and everyone else, and we're appreciative of everyone who chipped in and made it happen. So I just wanted to get that on record. But that was all I had for today. We'll move on to item 6, which is announcements. Do any alders have any announcements? Alder Cronin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if you, like myself, are limping through this pandemic with frequent infusions of materials from the Verona Public Library, I did just want to let you know that while the library still remains closed to the public, curbside pickup is still available, but the location of the pickup has changed. So it is no longer in the front of the building, it's at the side entrance, which if you use the library when they repaved the parking lot, that was the entrance that you used to go into the library at that time. There is signage that directs you where to go to pick up your books. And I also want to commend Library Director Stacy Burkhart and her staff for doing a really amazing job of making as many appointments available for people to come and pick up materials as possible. So the change really was to provide a little more shelter for library staff who will be entering and exiting the building to provide those materials. And that change started last Friday and will continue through the winter probably until the library reopens.
Excellent. Other announcements from the council? Seeing no other hands, we'll move on to item 7, which is the administrative report. Mr. Sayer.
Thank you. Just a few updates tonight. This Wednesday, we have a Sustainability Task Force meeting at 7 p.m. On Thursday, Mayor Diaz and I will be participating in a Verona Area Leadership Council meeting with the school district and other, leaders of the community. That's on December 17th at 5 p.m. on Zoom. So if anyone's interested in that, just tuning in, let Luke or myself know that. Alternate side parking is in place now until April 1st. So hopefully with the snowfall, people have their vehicles on the wrong side of the road hopefully they weren't on the wrong side of the road. But we are enforcing that now through April 1st. Tax bills were mailed out to property owners on December 7th. We are strongly encouraging people to mail payments to the city or place them in the drop box, either in the vestibule or in the parking lot here at City Hall. City Hall is open for in-person payments with proper social distancing and plastic barriers, so we are allowing 2 people into the kind of lobby area here at City Hall, and we have like a one-way traffic flow that goes through there. But we would strongly encourage people to take advantage of dropping it in the drop box. It's simple. It's the same place that you dropped your absentee ballot for voting. So same box, just put it in there. We check it a few times a day, we'll get it. We do have a vacancy. District 3 Alderperson Charlotte Journey is not running for election. So we do have a vacancy. So persons interested in being on the ballot for that election need to submit the necessary forms by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 5th. If there are any questions of that, I would encourage people to contact Deputy City Clerk Kayla Martin. And finally, the only active recruitment that we have right now is the fire department is currently accepting applications for the position of Battalion Chief of Operations. And those applications are due on January 3rd. And I'd be happy to answer any questions from council.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sayer? Seeing no further hands, we will move on to item 8, Engineers Report. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. I'm going to go backwards, and we can end with the East Side Interceptor. I have a little bit of more updated information from city staff on that one. So I will start with the design projects. For the Lincoln Street Stormwater Facility design, the team is currently addressing comments from the DNR in order to finalize the 90% design documents. And that design is scheduled to be wrapped up in January. For the North Main Street water main replacement design, right now we're just working with one of the utilities who identified some additional utilities in the area. And on that project, we are just going to be adjusting that alignment based on where we've identified some additional utilities. Plans and specifications are still scheduled for final delivery this winter, with construction to follow in the spring of 2021. For the Well 6 pumping station construction, the project was substantially complete on November 20th and the well is operational. The contractor is finishing up punch list items and closeout documents are being finalized. For the Verona area high school construction traffic improvements, all project roads are open to traffic, with some traffic lane restrictions anticipated to complete remaining punch list and rework items. However, the contractor has been slowly chipping away at this list, and it is down to 2 tasks at this time. So hopefully this project will come off the report soon. And for the Woods at Cathedral Point Phase 1, a letter of acceptance and reduction of letter of credit will be prepared once the tally of the work deferred to 2021 has been prepared. And then I have some additional information for East Side Interceptor. So I guess first of all, there's 2 city staff on site. For traffic, Bruce Street is closed as of November 30th with anticipated reopening in mid-January. The Ice Age Trail is detoured to South Main Street to Military Ridge State Trail. For the clearing and grubbing contractor has completed initial operations. Plan to be back on site later in the project to complete the remainder of the work. And again, there's 2 staff on site who are overseeing that work. For the tunneling, there's a tunneling plan for County Highway M that's being reviewed. Dewatering pits and sumps are to be set up starting next week. And the city just got word that boring is to begin starting January 5th between Badger Mill Creek and Locust Drive. For rock excavation, and that would include blasting, at this time, test drilling in pits from Bruce Street to just north of County Highway M indicate no bedrock within the trench. So that would mean there's no anticipated blasting at this time. Should that change, that would be communicated. For the pipe installation, the gravity sewer connection has been made at Bruce Street. Continuing installation of gravity sewer from Bruce Street to the north. Plan to begin MMSD force main at Bruce Street and place to the north in the next couple of weeks. And then for the Dane County work, the majority of that work will take place next summer. So with that, I guess I can take any questions. And I'll answer what I can. This isn't a project I've been involved in a lot of detail since it's a public project that like my firm did not design, but I can certainly answer what I can, and happy to do that.
Thank you. I see Alder Cole.
I don't know if you can answer this right now, but why, if Dean County said that, 40 feet for clear cut was excessive, and then the engineering plan stated 60 feet, and then there's actually being like 100 to 175 foot swaths being cut, why is this happening?
I don't have enough detail, I guess, on that. We determine the construction limits based on a number of factors. So one thing is depth, another thing is equipment access, worker safety, some of the topography. In this case, we've got a force main and a sanitary sewer, so it's a wider corridor, I guess, than like a single pipe, because MMSD is putting in a force main at the same time so that they can get in and out, hopefully with the one project. So in that case, it's widened the trench because of that. Without looking in detail at the plans, it'd be hard to say exactly. I don't know why they would have been clearing in excess of what was shown. Certainly something that, I'm sure other people might have more information. I don't know, I don't know exactly why. I don't know if that was intended or not. It's hard to say.
Other questions from the council? Alder Journey.
So, I don't know how much of a sense of urgency there is to address some of the issues that were brought up tonight in terms of the trees that were cut down. They're no longer going to protect the waterway, and then also property erosion with either excavation or disturbance of the rock croppage. So I know the work is going on, but is there a sense of urgency as to some of the damage that's...
Ms. Fisher?
So I did hear the comments about the silt fence. So, the plans show perimeter control. I did look at the erosion control aspect of that, just issuing the permit. And so that should have been installed as part of the, before they started anything. That's just kind of the typical thing. I guess in some cases, if you're doing some clearing that isn't really going to cause erosion, then, maybe, you would put that in right afterwards, but there should not have been a situation where there was significant erosion occurring without having the appropriate erosion control measures in place. There's also notes on the plans, and we have in the permit that the city has the ability to request and, have the contractor install additional erosion control measures. So, I don't know how long that occurred for. I know that there's multiple staff on site. I know that the staff who are out there are, very attuned to that. And, my thought is that it's likely, if it sounds like it was an issue, I would expect that, everyone's kind of working together, and if the contractor wasn't doing their part, I would expect that, the city staff would be on them to do that. And it sounds like that's been corrected now, and it'll be something they need to, keep tabs on moving forward as they do. In terms of urgency, I don't know exactly. I mean, I know that this is an important project, and I know that people at the city know that people, are reaching out about this type of thing, and so it's not like anyone's sitting on it. This is a top priority for staff at the city.
Thank you. Alder Ryan's next, but just real quick, I really appreciate you, Ms. Fisher, answering these since I know it's not your project.
That's fine. I don't mind.
Alder Ryan?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just have a general or generic process question, I guess. If there's a project plan and once on site, there's a determination that extra work has to occur that deviates from the plan. For example, broadening, the area that's affected. what is the process for authorizing that, or is that left to, yep.
We're starting to get afar. I mean, if we're going to have specific questions related to this project that would allow for further information to be provided to the public, which is really the only purpose and really the only thing that you can do under an engineer's report, that's fine. But we can't get into a broader discussion on our procedures and practices or any other issues related to this project and had to start a discussion because it's not on our agenda. I mean, really, these engineer reports, the administrative reports, can only be used for the purpose of providing information to the public, updates essentially.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Kleinmeyer. So my understanding of Alder Ryan's question was it was still just a general, so he could understand things better without, talking about the processes or potentially talking about changing them. Is that?
Yeah, but I'm just not sure how that's going to, I mean, right now I think we can use this if there's specific information that can be told to the public right now about the project as it's moving forward within the next, before your next council meeting when you would have this on the agenda, for example. That I think is the focus of the questions. I think it's an appropriate question that Alder Ryan is asking. I just think it's getting beyond the scope of what we can do for purposes of this meeting.
And you're the city's attorney, and so you want to make sure we don't make mistakes.
Well, yeah, I mean, we want to make sure that we comply with the open meetings law.
Yes, thank you. Alder Cole.
This does relate directly, so hopefully I'm okay, but if I'm not, please let me know. I was just wondering, based on the engineering plan, where they had, said some of the trees were marked on the plan, were they marked for being raised, or were they marked because they were, 40 to 45 inches in diameter? Because somebody had a question about that. They didn't know why they were marked on there, because if they were marked not to be raised, they were. So.
Well, again, so I just looked at the plans actually as we were talking, and I did notice that they are marked for being preserved, it looked like.
Ooh.
Okay, that's a point then to investigate further as to what happened. Other questions for the from the council?
And to be clear, I'm not sure if they're the same trees that we're talking about, but there were certainly some noted to be, preserved if possible, it looked like.
I mean, I guess I would think that's worth a staff investigation. I mean, the trees are there, they're not. So, I mean, and it seems like that's something we could follow up on. I guess this might be a question, well, this might be a tough question, but when can members, because there was a bunch of questions asked, at the meeting today, and I think maybe alders will think of some. When can we expect some answers from staff on these questions, just so people will know when to follow up?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a conversation with Theron tomorrow morning. We'll kind of start formulating some answers to the questions that we've gotten by email and then we've gotten by tonight. It might be the most productive way for us, and I'm just talking out loud here, and possibly posting those on the city's website. We do have a web page for this. That might be the best way versus sending out multiple emails on this. I know I do have a lot of people's information of who's contacting me, but might be best to try to post those online to kind of broadly distribute that as far as we can. But I would imagine my goal would be by the end of this week would be the goal.
Okay.
Schedule permitting, obviously, but that'd be the goal at least.
That's
And it won't be answers to all the questions, but we'll get to the ones that we can answer immediately.
Yeah, I would rate it a higher priority if you could. And then also, maybe not send emails out, but maybe you can send emails when the website's been updated, just so people got it. Any other questions from the council? Seeing no further hands? Anything further, Ms. Fisher? All right. We'll move on to item 9, which is committee reports. First up, we have Finance Committee. Alder Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion for approval of the payment of the bills in the amount of $997,879.01.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cronin. Alder Kemp.
Yeah, for the sake of discussion, there's a couple payments here of particular note. This month, there's a payment of $33,644.39 to AECom for various engineering projects that are ongoing in the city of Verona. On page 4, there's multiple payments. There's a payment for $69,149 to Ewald Automotive for 2 new police squads, $31,861.43 to Mandrel Excavating for the clean out of the Harmony Hills Pond, along with a payment of $111,309.60 also to Mandrel for the Well 6 project, and finally a payment of $509,216.76 to Minger Construction for the first part of the East Side Interceptor project. It's important to note that that $509,216.76 amount is an amount that we will partially receive payment back from the Madison Metro Sewage District.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion to pay the bills? Seeing no hands, all those in favor of paying the bills in the amount specified signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next we'll move, anything further from finance?
Oh, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 9B, which is the Verona Economic Development Commission. Mr. Sayer, do you have this one?
I can. I don't think we have any, I think technically you're the chair, but I guess I can take it. So the first item is a loan modification for a request from Eric and Allison Plummer, Treehouse Verona, located at 201 East Verona Avenue. Due to COVID-19, the Treehouse Verona has requested modifications to their existing loan with the city. The Treehouse has requested to move 6 loan payments, December through May, to the end of the current loan schedule and to extend the final payment date 6 months to allow flexibility during the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, the Treehouse was paying ahead on their payments, and the goal by the Treehouse would be to resume paying ahead as soon as possible. The Verona Economic Development Commission discussed the loan modification request on December 7th and voted 5-0 to recommend for approval of the loan modification.
You've heard the explanation. Questions, comments, or motions on the loan modification request? Chair would love to see a motion. Alder Ricky and then Alder Posey.
I'll make a motion to approve the loan modification request from Eric and Allison Plummer, Treehouse Verona, located at 201 East Verona Avenue.
Motion by Alder Ricky. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Posey. Anything to add to that, Alder Ricky?
No.
And I had Alder Posey next, unless you're making a motion.
Yeah, I was following up, but I will make the comment that I'm glad these business owners reached out to us and requested this. We have helped a lot of businesses in our city, and I know I've been from the beginning asking business owners if they need help to be reaching out to us because we've done a lot for restaurants, and I want to make sure that especially those serving our youth are ready for the end of all this and we want them to stay. So.
Motion before the body. Other questions or comments on this motion? I'll just say, yeah, I think this is, we should totally grant this loan modification just because, they've been paying ahead. They were hit, like we all were, with a once in a 100-year pandemic. And I expect that once things get back to normal, which will hopefully be in the next 6 to 8 months, that they'll resume right on schedule. So to me, this makes a lot of sense. But any other comments? Seeing no further hands, all those in favor of granting the loan modification request from Eric and Allison Plummer, Treehouse Verona, located at 201 East Verona Avenue, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 9C, which is Public Safety and Welfare Committee. Alder Ricky.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve Ordinance 20-971, amending Section 10-1-27 of the Code of Ordinances relating to parking restrictions in median areas.
Motion by Alder Ricky. Is there a second? Second by Alder Touche. Alder Ricky.
The proposed ordinance amendment would restrict parking in the median areas along Fortune Drive, Laser Street, Winchester Pass, and East Chapel Royal Drive. The medians in these locations create the need to restrict the parking to ensure traffic can safely travel through these areas.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on the motion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor of ordinance number 20-971, amending section 10-1-27 of the Code of Ordinances related to parking restrictions in median areas. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Alder Ricky.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 20-972, amending section 10-1-29 of the Code of Ordinances relating to winter parking restrictions.
Motion by Alder.
Second.
Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Touche. Alder Ricky.
This proposed ordinance amendment would restrict parking in the winter for the median area along Winchester Pass. The median in this location creates the need to restrict the parking to ensure traffic and snowplows can safely travel through this area.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on this motion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor of ordinance 20-972, amending section 10-1-29 of the Code of Ordinances relating to winter parking restrictions, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from public safety?
Nope, that's all.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 9D, which is Plan Commission. Alder Cole.
Yes. I am making a motion to approve resolution number R-20-051, approving a precise implementation plan known as Sugar Creek Commons for 2 4-story buildings containing 143 apartment units and 26,000 square feet of commercial space located at the southwest corner of West Verona Avenue and Legion Street with conditions that I will specify.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Alder Cole.
The Plan Commission held the required public hearing on December 7th, 2020, and there were no public comments. Comments from the Plan Commission included concerns regarding how the site has been maintained, what recourse the city will have if conditions are not followed, and the site does not have a lot of green space. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 to approve the precise implementation plan on West Verona Avenue that would allow for the construction of 2 buildings containing a total of 143 multifamily units and 26,000 square feet of commercial space with the following conditions. Number 1, prior to the issuance of building permits for Building B, Forward Development Group shall enter into a developer's agreement with the City of Verona. Number 2, Forward Development Group shall install and maintain a multifamily notification sign as outlined in the city's residential development policy, which will have their contact information posted on the sign. Number 3, if construction on the property has not started by April 1st, 2021, Forward Development Group shall grade, seed, and restore the site so the site has the appearance of open space no later than April 22nd of 2022. Number 4, the site shall remain free of weeds and tall grass shall be cut. Number 5, if construction on the property has not started by April 1st, 2021, all debris, construction material shall be removed from the property no later than April 22nd of 2022. Number 6, if active construction is not occurring, the construction fence shall be removed from the property. And number 7, there shall be no herbicides and pesticides applied to the property if the property needs to be reseeded.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions or comments on this motion? I'll just add, I think, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but these conditions are generally not typical. However, this is, as we all know, been an ongoing issue where the developer, for whatever reasons, and within their rights as private property owners, decided to take down all the buildings on the site and leave it as a vacant lot. I personally was not especially happy about it, but they have private property rights, and the point of these conditions is basically to make sure if they decide for whatever reason not to build there, which is something else I don't understand, that they will actually make it look nice since it's an essential part of our city. Thanks. And a last chance for questions or comments? Seeing no hands? Some issues with my iPad today. It's okay though, I have multiple screens. So, all those in favor of resolution number R-20-051, approving a precise implementation plan known as Sugar Creek Commons for two 4-story buildings containing 143 apartment units and 26,000 square feet of commercial space located at the southwest corner of West Verona Avenue and Legion Street with the conditions specified, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no?
No.
And that motion passes, 7-1. Alder Cole.
Thank you. Next, I'm making a motion to approve resolution number R-20-052, approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots for 1 twin house located at 731 and 733 Gatsby Glen Drive.
Motion by Alder Cole, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Ricky, I believe. Alder Cole.
Thank you. There were no comments from the Plan Commission on this CSM. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 to approve the certified survey map with the one following condition, that a shared wall agreement shall be recorded with the Dane County Register of Deeds.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on this motion? Seeing no hands. All those in favor of resolution number R-20-052, approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots for 1 twin house located at 731 and 733 Gatsby Glen Drive, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Alder Cole.
Thank you. Last up, I'm making a motion to approve resolution number R-20-053, approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots located at 6535 Grandview Road in the town of Verona.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Carney. Alder Cole.
There was a discussion regarding the city and town of Verona boundary agreement with regards to this property, and the Plan Commission voted 7-0 to approve the certified survey map.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on this motion? Seeing no hands. All those in favor of resolution number R-20-053, approving a certified survey map to create 2 lots located at 6535 Grandview Road in the town of Verona, say aye.
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 Opposed, no? And that motion passes. Anything further from Plan Commission?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to 9E, which is Public Works, Sewer, and Water Committee. Alder Touche.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm making a motion to approve project closeout and change order number 3 for project ID 2017-115, well 6.
Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Ryan. Alder Touche.
As discussed at the committee level, Madrell Excavating has substantially completed the well 6 project. All project documentation has been provided by the contractor. There are minor punch list items to be addressed that the city is holding money back until this is complete. The meeting was held with the contractor on the 10th of this month to schedule these items. Change order number 3 is to rectify as-built quantities for the work required to complete the project. There were some reductions in the project, unstable trench stabilization stone and fabric that wasn't needed, we didn't have to pay for, paving, pump stage changes, a roof hatch, and no explosive were used or fire shots for boring the holes. So all these items helped save costs on this project. But there were some additions. We had some mason winter work enclosures that were needed because it was so cold. They had to get around it to do the masonry work. Some containment around the curb, some additional epoxy flooring, and some generator airflow louvers that needed to be modified. In the end, the closeout of the project will have for the final payment will be issued. The city is holding back, as I said earlier, $35,000 in final payment until all the items are complete. And just to give you guys some details on the project, the original award value was for $2,604,102.50. We approved a change order for adding $134,037.48. But this final change order is actually a reduction of $101,531.52, bringing the total cost of this project to $2,636,608.46. That's about a, $32,000 increase off the original amount. So not too bad given the surprises that came up. So that is all.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments on this motion? Seeing no hands. All those in favor of project closeout and change order number 3 for project ID 2017-115 well 6, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Anything further from Public Works?
That is all.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to item 10, old business. First up under 10A, we have discussion and possible action regarding public improvements development agreement, TIF agreement, tax agreements, and municipal revenue obligation resolution for the Sugar Creek Commons project in tax incremental district number 9. Mr. Sayer, we can take this one in open, right? We don't know.
I think from a staff perspective, I don't think we need to go into closed session, but you have the ability with the agenda item how it's noticed.
Awesome. Could you give us a brief overview as to where we're at?
Yes, again. On February 10th, 2020, the city approved a TIF development agreement, sorry, legs cramping up, and public improvement agreement with Sugar Creek Commons, LLC, to redevelop the property at 509 West Roan Avenue. To date, the approved TIF development agreement and public improvement agreements have not been signed by the developer. Further, the development project has not started construction. The approved agreements had milestone dates that have not been met by the developer. The development and TIF agreements include revised dates anticipating the public improvement construction shall commence on or before March 1st of 2021 and shall be completed by July 31st of 2021. Further, the approval includes tax agreements and the issuance of municipal revenue obligation in the amount of $3.2 million. Staff recommends approval of development agreements, TIF agreements, and tax agreements, and municipal revenue obligations subject to final review by the city administrator and city attorney. On the agreements, we recommend a motion on those items. So we have the public improvements agreements, the TIF agreements, the tax agreements. We'd recommend one motion on that, once again, subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and city attorney. And then on the municipal revenue obligation resolution, we'd recommend a separate motion on that, and that would be subject to the execution of the agreements. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Also tonight is City Attorney Brian Kleinmeyer is here as well to help answer any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Questions, comments, or motions? Questions, comments, or motions?
I can make a motion.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to the council recommending approval of public improvements development agreement, the TIF agreement, tax agreements, and municipal revenue obligation resolution for the Sugar Creek Commons project.
To clarify, Mr. Sayer, the municipal revenue obligation should be separate?
Right, I'm sorry. Yep. So let me just start over again. I'll make a motion recommending approval to the council, the public improvements development agreement, TIF agreement, tax agreements, obligation resolution for the Sugar Creek Commons project in tax incremental district number 9 with the changes specified by Mr. Sayer.
Motion by Alder Kemp. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cole. Anything to add, Alder Kemp?
Nothing further.
Motion before the body. Any questions or comments on this motion? Mr. Kleinmeyer.
Just to confirm, so this is the motion to approve the TIF agreement, the public improvements agreement, and the 2 tax agreements subject to final review and approval by the city administrator and city attorney.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that was the understanding of the second, Alder Cole as well? Excellent. Motion before the body. Any questions or comments on this motion? Mr. Sayer, just a brief question. So this is the same project, of course, we mentioned under Planning Commission for the PIP. But could you talk a little bit about what will happen if the developer doesn't develop the property?
Yeah, so ultimately, we had some dates in that PIP amendment approval. If those dates aren't hit, they'll have to make some improvements to the site by basically restoring the property to open space. The development agreements also have some hard dates in there that require the kind of public improvements to be completed by July 31st of 2021. If those aren't met, the project then would not receive the TIF funding. So those are kind of the hard dates in there. I'm looking at the PIP reapproval, which is the hard dates in there by April 1st. They'll do restoration of the property. And then ultimately, if they don't complete the public improvements as well, that's a hard date as well too.
And if you could, as a developer, talking about any potential issues, because I mean they resubmitted the PIP, and resubmitted, the plan and everything else. Like, has anything changed on their end? Do they want any? I guess if you could talk about that.
The only modifications we made in these agreements was with the dates. So if you look at the dates, we adjusted the anticipated starting construction dates, and then they requested to push the July 31st date, which was originally July 30th. They requested to push that back a month, so 30 days. From the developer standpoint, they're still anticipating to start construction here in the spring, and kind of start the public improvements, I think, as soon as they can. That's what they've told us. So that's what we're hearing from them.
Thank you. Motion before the body. Any other questions or comments? Alder Posey.
I'll just make the comment. I'm really happy to be in a spot where putting some hard dates to hold them to on this project. I know that it's something I personally am bothered by, and I know a lot of the residents in our district are really bothered by this property and constantly asking what's going on and what's happening with it. I think every conversation we have, and I'm sure a lot of the other alders are having this too, you can have a conversation about something else and it will always come back to this project and this property in the end, asking, so what about that? So I'm really happy to see us holding them to dates, and I expect that the developers, with their last presentation telling us how much they care about our community, I expect that they're going to hold themselves to those as well and do something to help us to improve that area of our community.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the council? Seeing no hands. All those in favor of the Public Improvements Development Agreement, the TIF agreement, and the tax agreement, subject to final staff review for the Sugar Creek Commons project in Tax Incremental District Number 9, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. We are still on 10A, and I would entertain a motion to approve the municipal revenue obligation resolution, if someone would like to make it. Alder Cronin.
I will make a motion to approve the municipal revenue obligation resolution for the Sugar Creek Commons projects in tax incremental district number 9, subject to review and approval of the city administrator and the city attorney.
Mr. Sayer.
Can we get that condition to be subject to the execution of the agreements?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion by Alder Cronin. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Cole, I believe. Motion before the body? Any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing no hands. All those in favor of approving the municipal revenue obligation resolution for the Sugar Creek Commons project in tax incremental district number 9 with the conditions described by Mr. Sayer, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Next, we'll move on to 10B, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the acquisition for parcel 2, located along South Main Street for project ID 2018-108, East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Replacement. Mr. Sayer, if you would.
Thank you. I'll share my screen here if I can. All right. So the parcel 2 is just north of South Main Street and east and south of the Badger Mill Creek with an approximate area of 0.54 acres, all within a map floodway, and requires the following easements for the project. A permanent limited easement of 0.15 acres, a temporary limited easement of 0.14 acres. So the property in question is in green on the screen before you. Communication started with the property owner in late May, continued into early June, and the parties could not reach an agreement. In late July, early August, staff proceeded with the statutorial steps for the land acquisition. It's been the full intention to work with the owner and reach a negotiated settlement. Staff is requesting a closed session with the Common Council for discussion on the acquisition of the land and the jurisdictional offer and award of damages for the acquisition. With me also is Director of Public Works Theron Jacobson, and then also City Attorney Brian Kleinmeyer.
So at this time, this would be something we're strictly negotiating on price and other things related to that.
Correct.
Okay, so that seems appropriate for a closed session. I noticed the next item as well is a potentially closed session. Would it make sense to make both motions consecutively so we can do it faster?
Yes, I would recommend that.
All right. Unless someone else has something to say in open session on this one, a motion to go into closed session on 10B would be in order. Alderiki.
I'll make the motion to go into closed session to discuss and possibly act on the acquisition for parcel 2 located along South Main Street for project ID 2018-108 East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Replacement. The Common Council may convene in a closed session as authorized by Wisconsin Statute 19.85(1)(e) for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons deem a closed session necessary. The Common Council may convene an open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session.
Motion by Alderiki. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. This is, of course, a roll call vote. If the roll could be read.
Alderperson Cronin?
Aye.
Alderperson Posey?
Aye.
Alderperson Journey?
Aye.
Alderperson Kemp?
Aye.
Alderperson Ryan?
Aye.
Alderperson Cole?
Aye.
Alderperson Reekie?
Aye.
Alderperson Touche?
Aye.
All right. And then in regards to 10C, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the performance of a city employee, I would also entertain a motion to go into closed session.
You can make a motion.
Alder Cole?
Making a motion to go into closed session for discussion on possible action regarding the performance of a city employee. The Common Council may convene in a closed session for discussion and permissible action regarding the performance of a city employee as authorized by section 19.85(1)(c) of the Wisconsin statutes to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee subject to the jurisdiction or authority of the city of Verona, specifically for the purposes of considering employment and performance of a city hall employee and appointee of the council.
Motion by Alder Cole. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Posey. This, of course, is a roll call vote, just like the previous one. If the roll could be read.
Alderperson Kemp?
Aye.
Alderperson Posey?
Aye.
Alderperson Ryan?
Aye.
Alderperson Reekie?
Aye.
Alderperson Cronin?
Aye.
Alderperson Cole?
Aye.
Alderperson Touche?
Aye.
Alderperson Journey?
Aye.
All right, so we'll move into closed session at 8:50 p.m. You should have the Outlook calendar request. If you get confused or lost like I did, text Adam and he'll help you out. See you guys in a moment in closed session.
Did Luke make it in here?
I did. I didn't get lost on the way.
Dude, I'm calling you later in the week.
Good luck.
You need more interesting things in your life. That's all I gotta say.
I think it is interesting. I don't know.
I'm super glad you do, because
We're good, Luke. We can go live.
All right, Adam wants to keep it moving, understandably.
Thank you.
We completed discussion on the items B and C. Did anyone have any public comments on either of those items? All right, negotiations on B is ongoing, and the topic on C is ongoing as well. And once we have updates we can share publicly, we will share them publicly. With that, we are on to item 11, which is adjournment. A motion to adjourn.
So
Motion by Alder Touche, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Ricky. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. And we are adjourned at 10:42 p.m. Thank you all.
Good night.
Holidays.
Good night.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.